25 cards are about to reduce in price. See which ones will be very nice. Find out what's going on as I hereby invite everyone to join me on my adventures through Marvel Snap. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. So the series drops have been officially announced. We now know what they are going to be, and we have the list sitting right next to us, and we're going to go over which ones to see which ones have been a pleasure and which ones are going to be a pain. First of all, this is going to be done in two sections. First, we're going to talk about the 4s to 3s, which are the cards that are going from 3,000 tokens to 1,000 tokens. These are also the cards that if you do not own, you can now pick them up in non-spotlight caches, just if you have a regular cache left to own that looks something like one of these collector's caches, you can get them in here. Do not do that until after you have changed the newest version, which is not coming out for a little bit of a while, about 2 to 3 weeks here, and you know that you're in the newest version, then you can open up caches, otherwise you will not get them. And make sure your client is updated. Alright, so these are all the ones that are changing down from 4s to 3s. I'm honestly surprised that 2 extra cards didn't show up here. And we'll talk about the first one that kind of makes me annoyed. Is the fact that Knull finally goes down from 4 to 3. And the only reason this makes me annoyed is because pretty much every single person pretty much got a Knull about a week, maybe 2 ago. And the fact that Knull was supposed to be brought down in series pretty much almost about 2 years ago at this point. Knull was the last card that didn't quite make it into the original rotation, where every card would drop down in about like 6-8 months, and it was the first one that missed out. And for the longest time, Knull was just gonna be that card that like you just didn't have. I'm glad that Knull got dropped down. I'm happy that people who join the game after the event will have the ability to pick up Knull, because Destroy is hard to make early game. You can make a Destroy deck in early game, but it is not good, and Knull will help out with that. Because of the fact that Knull went down, I was also expecting, before this came out, before the series drops came out, I had a pretty good idea that Knull was going to go down because of the fact that we all got it. But because of that fact, I was also expecting X-23 to come down, and I was also expecting Dokken to come down. I'm surprised that X-23 and Dokken aren't on this list, but that is kind of a good thing, kind of a bad thing. Alright, let's talk about all the cards that we are moving down into the 4-3 territory. First of all, we're going to talk about Nebula. Kind of a good card, kind of an interesting card, sometimes still one of the best 1-drops that exists. I will admit that a lot of decks I will use Nebula, and because she just takes a lane and can go with that lane. There are so many times where your opponent will just throw a card down on Nebula and just keep her from powering up and nothing else. Spider-Ham. This card is so weird at times because I love and hate this card at the same exact time. When this card hits something and it's good, when it hits a Iron Man, you giggle. When it hits a Red Skull, you kind of cry. And the most interesting thing is if you turn it into a pig and they're playing the Selene that transforms it, it doesn't transform it into the card, it transforms it into the pig +1. So it becomes a 1-drop instead of whatever it was. But other than that, this card does not see play unless you're playing in Conquest, and a lot of people play this in Conquest just to take out the Agatha players, because this one hit Agatha all the time. Next up, we have Ghost Spider. Ghost Spider, I'm glad to finally see come around. This is kind of what Move needs. Move has so many problems for a newer deck, for a Series 3 deck. There's so many parts that are missing for Knull. The only thing that's for Move, not for Knull, I should say, is pretty much Iron Fist, and Ghost Spider is awesome to set up, especially with some of the cards that are coming around. Selene, does anyone play this card anymore? Does anybody care about this card anymore? This card, I don't know whatever happened to it. It had like one roll. I don't think anybody's going to play it in Series 3 when it comes around. It's such a weak card that does nothing. It's actually a worse card than almost Spider-Ham is. Because Spider-Ham can at least take out one of their key pieces. With Selene, even if it's a key piece of theirs, unless it's like the most key piece of theirs, they can still play it down, and having that -3 really doesn't affect them. And the fact that it's reciprocal is just, like, she could almost not be reciprocal, and she would still might not see play. If she just gives a card in your opponent's hand -3, that might have her see some sort of play, and even that's me stretching it, because I'm not sure that would work. Not the fact that it wouldn't be a card, I'm just not sure if it has a slot at 1 at that point. Giving just your opponent one card in their hand -3 might be as good as Iceman, and I'm not sure if that's good enough. Next up, we have the boy, the kitty, the card that used to be a menace running everywhere around, and Zabu. Zabu is a card that every time you think it is down, that every time you think that nobody's going to play Zabu, it goes taking a nap for like 22 seconds and then it comes back. It's not as big of a card, it's not as bad of a card, but it's a solid card. Next up is Havok. Havok just never found his home. That -1 per turn is just brutal. The fact that if no matter what turn you play this on, that's the energy you have for the rest of the game. In a game where every turn matters, it is huge to lose out on those points, even though it's a big amount of points that you get off of it. I'm not sure how they could fix Havok. He sees some play here and there. There are a few decks that will run him, but the fact that come turn 5, if you have a card that's a 5-drop, you just can't play it because you don't have the 5 energy. It's just, there's too many good cards at 4. There's too many good cards at 5. For this to beat a 10-drop, sorry, 10 power card, it has to go off 3 times. You now have 4 10s that have pretty much no requirement. You can play a Cull Obsidian that'll get you 10 points of power, and all you need to have is Sam Wilson anywhere in your deck and you're fine. To have this go off 3 times, you'd have to play this on turn 4 at the latest, unless you're doing something weird. That means you can't play 5s and you can't play 6s. Cull Obsidian doesn't have that problem. Silk. Oh man, how the 2-drops have dropped. Power crept? I don't know what word you want to use. At one point, Silk was considered a decently good card because it was a 2/5. That was its draw. Maybe if somehow you can make this so it didn't lose power when it moves, or could it be reduced in power, that would make Silk really valuable. The fact is, you don't know where this is going to end up, and right now you can play twos. Let me just go into twos for a second here. You've got stuff that is hitting 2/5s just like Agent Venom. Agent Venom's better than Silk. Next up is Mobius M. Mobius, this card, again, never found its home. The fact of making it so your opponent can't, quote-unquote, cheat out a card just isn't good. Let's just go back to the 10 again. The Cull Obsidian. The Cull Obsidian is 10, okay? For 4. So your opponent can't cheat it out. It plays it on 4. You played a 3/3. It played a 4/10. It doesn't help you out. You almost need Mobius and Mobius to get a point, 2 points of power. This could be a 3/5 and not be the worst card in the world, and that's saying something. Your opponent cheating out mana while an interesting tech card doesn't happen as often as you think it does. This could almost be dropped down to a 2. If this was dropped down to a 2, it might see play. I think as a 2/3, as a tech card, it'd be fine. Or change it so it's no longer ongoing, so you can't turn it off. Hercules. Even in move synergies, this card just does not make it. There are too many good move cards. There are too many interesting cards for move. Now, this might find its home in too early move, where you just don't have a good option. But the fact is that Hercules needs something to move into it, which means you need another move trigger anyways. And then you need to spot. It's just too many things for one card to worry about. Nimrod. One of the best cards that I think a Series 3 player can ever have. Nimrod does not care later on in the world. So many things beat it, but at the early game, even now, every once in a while, I'll see a Nimrod deck come around where it plays down the Nimrod, and you know that they're going to do turn 5, where they're going to do the Venom, and they're going to do, turn 6. You play 4, you boost this somehow, probably with a Shuri. Turn 5, you do the Venom, and then you know it's going to go into another location, so you do the Carnage. And then you get these big, huge spots, and you know it's coming down, and you still can't do anything about it. Next up, we have Lady Deathstrike. A good tech card. Should have existed. Should have been a way around some of the smaller stuff for a long time. Good for destroying. This is really helping out a destroy deck. Get rid of some of the little stuff. Get rid of some of the stuff that you don't like to see, and Lady Deathstrike's there. They take out the Wongs. They take out the small stuff that you might not care about. That's tech cards. Again, the fact that she's on reveal is a little bit weird. She almost needs to have that on reveal taken off of her and just be a just because card, and it should be fine. M.O.D.O.K. Yes, please, finally. Early game, this card has the easiest way to trigger anything. This card in early game is so painful. If you're looking for a Series 3 discard, there's just not good Series 3 discard. M.O.D.O.K just says, I don't care. The fact that now you can make M.O.D.O.K hella and be Series 3 complete is just huge. Next up, we're going to look at the ones that are going from Series 5 to Series 4. First of all, we'll talk about the one that makes me cry the most. Elsa Bloodstone is moving from Series 5 to Series 4. I truly do believe this has to do with two different reasons. First of all, we all got this as our Christmas present. If you played at Christmas time, around Christmas time, you got the Elsa Bloodstone. Secondly, Galactica is just eating these things up for dinner. The fact that Galactica is pretty much about the same point value as Elsa is, and just does not care where cards go. It just makes Elsa hard to play. She could almost be brought to 3 power, and I don't think it'd be broken. I'd have to look into that, but I don't think it'd be broken. Loki. Really not sure what to say about Loki. I'm kind of glad he's coming down. It's kind of sad that he's coming down. Where this card that used to define an archetype is now just not seen play in any way, shape, or form. It's such an interesting concept, but almost to make Loki work, and I know this is a weird way of saying it, it almost needs Domino's text where you always draw on 2. It almost needs that Domino, Agatha, Thanos, where it like starts in your hand, because playing this right down on 2 would be awesome. Problem is, if they ever did that, then Arishem becomes a real pain again, so it's Loki fighting with Arishem, Arishem fighting with Loki. Because to get Loki in any other deck than Arishem would just be fun. Play your opponent's deck, have it cost 1 less, see what happens. Black Knight. Oh, okay, so at one point, the sword was ridiculously good. The fact that the sword had basically Colossus as effect was just too good. So they had to take out the fact that you couldn't reduce it. Since they took out the fact that you couldn't reduce it, this card has never seen the light of day. And that's kind of bad, because I don't know if not many people are playing Shadow King, but Shadow King is becoming a thing again. And especially, this was before Red Guardian, if I remember correctly. So even if Shadow King stopped this from working, for this to get Red Guardian might be enough. Because the Red Guardian would take away all the effects on it and turn it back to 0. Werewolf by Night. There just is not enough power coming off Werewolf by Night. The amount of on-reveals that you need to play down, the fact that you need that amount of space. You don't have that good secret turn anymore. There's a part of me that would almost want this to be, for just flavor purposes, nothing else. A 2/2 that when you play down a card with on-reveal, it gets +2. That's not that big of a change, in my opinion, but it'd be a huge for being a 2/2 that would get +2. Because on turn 6, you could just play this down and play down 4 on reveals, as long as you had the spotting correctly. That's +8. That would make this a 210. That's not the end of the world. But also, this could find its way into the 10 stack if it worked out correctly. Sebastian Shaw. Sebastian Shaw just needs something. I don't know what it needs. It works well with Silver Surfer. And other than Silver Surfer, I'm going to give this the same thing that I would almost give Werewolf By Night. Drop it down to a 3/3 and have it get +3. That seems very thematic about it. A 3/3 that gets +3. Other than that, Silver Surfer gets a new point away. Kind of glad that Corvus Glaive is coming out. This is a nice card. Good to have a discard come down. Really am shocked that this one didn't stay up longer. This is a pretty decently good card for discard. Miss Marvel, not surprised she's coming down. When you look at how Mr. Fantastic works now, this is almost, and I would say almost, a worse Mr. Fantastic. The fact is Mr. Fantastic is now doing 3, she's now doing 5. They both basically have to go in the center lane. The fact is, for her to work, the 2 other lanes need to be non-matching cards, and need at least 2 cards in them. That's not worth the 2 extra power almost. The one I would give to her, if I had to give anything to her, would be simply the fact of take away that needs to be in the middle. That needs to be in the middle is just so hard for her. I think she'd be fine if she wasn't in the middle. Figure it out, and I think you have a decently good card because, again, so many restrictions. Either that, or take her back to what she used to be, where I only needed 1 card. Cull Obsidian. Yes, please, thank you. Let's move on. This is a card that is so good, just as a regular 4-drop. And now that Sam Wilson exists, this is going to be a staple 4-drop card. Annihilus. Who cares? The whole Clog archetype is, for all intents and purposes, dead. Partially because Second Dinner doesn't like you to play Clog in any way, shape, or form. And that's a good thing, because the last thing that I want to have is get to a situation where I'm on turn 3 or turn 4, and basically there's nothing that I can do because all my spots are filled. But because of that fact, Annihilus will never be a good card, because they don't want Clog to really be a thing. They want it to be a spice, but they don't want it to be a whole meal. Cannonball. Yes. Thank you. I'm hoping that somehow, someway, this gets more into the rotation, that people understand how good Cannonball can be at times. Ever since they changed how Professor X works, Cannonball just has not seen play. Everybody gave up on Cannonball, and to legitimately kick something out of a spot for 5 and possibly just win that lane is huge. And nobody has really made an interesting, viable play for Cannonball since that ever happened to Professor X. Blob, honestly, nobody cares anymore. A 613 just isn't making it. A 615 isn't making it. You can have 620s at this point. You can have 624s. I almost, and I mean almost, want them to shoot for the moon again. Whereas your entire deck, because that was just funny. But the fact is now you can get 5s that go into the 20 range. You can get 4s that go into the 20 range. had his one moment in the sunshine. He came out in gangbusters. Everybody said we had to nerf this guy. They nerfed him to the ground. He was kind of surviving. Erisham brought him back, and he got grounded to the dust again. This one shocks me. This one surprises me. Because this is the card for the 10 stick. And some people are saying, oh, they might nerf it. How would you nerf it? The most that you could nerf it was to bring it down to a 6-9. I really hope they don't bring it to a 6-9. That'd feel bad. And the only reason I can see this becoming a 6-9 is because of the Surtur, and they already nerfed Surtur. This is what makes the 10 stack. This is the 10 stack. When you're talking about the 10 stack, whenever I'm talking about the 10 stack, this is the card that everybody means when they talk about the 10 stack. This is the card that created the 10 stack. And it's so nice that everybody, or at least most people, either have this card or now get an easier way of getting this card. I'm very happy about how many things we're getting dropped this time around. Yes, there are some duds in this pile. There will always be some duds in this pile. But this is what needs to happen at least every 3 months. If you are bringing 12 cards down into Series 3, that's the minimum that needs to happen every 3 months. Because you are putting more than 12 cards in every 3 months. But that's about where you need to be. The only thing that I would highly suggest that Second Dinner do instead is instead of doing 12 cards every 3 months, you do 4 cards every month. You move 4 cards down from Series 5 to Series 4, you move 4 cards down from Series 4 to Series 3. That would just give every single time we had a patch come around, a new season, it's like, ooh, what cards do I get to play? What cards do I get to see? This is a nice shot in the arm for a lot of things, but you need to do this more often. Also, you need to figure out some way of making it so that it's even easier for Series 3 drops to be gotten by newer players. The biggest problem that you're going to have is you've now just bloated the Series 3 drop pool for a new player by 12 more cards. 13 more cards, honestly. Sorry. So, right now, if you are looking for a certain card and you're not Series 3 complete, or if you just joined the game and you want, let's say, just Black Panther, you've gone from 100 cards to 113 cards, and that's a big jump up. And yes, I know they've made some changes about how often you can get a card going up on the track, but they almost need to jump that up even more. Honestly, if you want my opinion, you want to bring people back, if you're not Series 3 complete, every single cache that you open should have a Series 3 in it until you're done. Nobody buys the Series 3. If you spend tokens on a Series 3 card, I'm not sure what to say. They're too easy to get. They're too easy to come by. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, remember, play for fun.